Good morning, everyone. My name is Doug, and I will be the host for today's talk here with Guy Finley. And welcome all of you who are here in person in Merlin, Oregon. If you're here, please take the time to turn off your cell phone if you haven't done so already. If you're online, welcome to our class today. If you're new to this format, Guy will speak first about an hour. We'll take a 5-minute break, and we'll come back for questions and answers from all of you. And as you people know here, you can come up to the microphone at any time. And online, on GoToWebinar, you can come and you can, where you're at, you can speak directly to Guy on GoToWebinar, and you can ask questions in your chat boxes behind the scenes. So I think most of you know that. If you have any questions, you can go into the chat box or support at guyfinley.com, and Kate will help you behind the scenes if you have any problems. All right, let's go ahead and get started. The title for today is The Eyes to See the Dimensions of the Divine Kingdoms Within You. I'm going to read the key lesson twice. You can read along in front of you. You are a creation of the deep, drawn to explore not just an unknowable mystery, but to take an unimaginable journey into the depths of an unnameable being, and all without having to take a single step outside of yourself. You are a creation of the deep, drawn to explore not just an unknowable mystery, but to take an unimaginable journey into the depths of an unnameable being, and all without having to take a single step outside of yourself.
Good morning, afternoon, good evening, whatever day or time it is that you're tuning in. I'm glad you're here. The last line of that key lesson, to explore through an unimaginable journey the depths of an unnameable being, and all without having to take a single step outside of yourself. How many of you want to sign up for that cruise? I'm going to attempt something challenging, admittedly. You're going to have to work extra hard. But the reward for the dedicated attention and persistence with your wish to understand, relax. I look out. People are already tense. I haven't even started talking yet. It is inestimable. One impression, the whole 55 minutes of what I intend to share with you, leads us to what we might call a meditation or a practice. You'll understand it when we get there. And it's what you do with it. I don't want to spend time with you, live with you. You live with yourself. And your experience of life is exactly what you have agreed to settle for. And most of us have agreed to settle for something that's not as bad as someone else's life. What is the mind always doing? What are you doing every day, every single day of your life? You are looking outside of yourself at what you believe is the cause of the experience of yourself. And once it's clear to you the cause of the experience of yourself, then you set out outside of yourself in order to change that condition so you can have a new experience. What I want to show you is that what you're looking for doesn't require a single thought. Requires no part of you to go looking for or running after anything. All it requires is that you first realize the possibility of a new kind of awareness, a new order of understanding. And in the very glimpse of that new order of understanding, to put your toe into another dimension of your own existence, a dimension that by and large you have no idea exists, save for rare moments where, and I'll explain this to you, you have a touch of it. So let's get started. I do want you to spay, which is stay and pay. Spay attention. Ever so briefly, if you've ever had the opportunity, I know when I was a child, I relished going to these places where I could watch animals, essentially in captivity. The fact that they were in captivity never dawned on me because I was too identified with the sensation of seeing a creature up close that I could experience some of its essence. But it never dawned on me that the creature in captivity, whether it's the dolphin or the eagle or the lion, that creature, regardless how elegant its compound, is stressed and suffering. Surely you can understand that. And why is that creature stressed and suffering? Because that creature is meant to roam freely through an environment that isn't just a reflection of its nature, but that in that nature of the creature, it's intended to be fulfilled through its environment. It discovers itself through its environment. Limit the environment, limit the opportunity of discovery. Please? Now you can see that without a lot of effort. Why can't you see the idea as above, so below? Why can't you see that it's true for the human soul, it's true for you? That you, by whatever means you have been able to put together, have the power to move through this world the way you want to. But regardless where you go and what you do and all of your plans to profit from whatever you've assembled in your life, still you are trapped in a shadow land. You are trapped in a world that you don't know is of your own making, and so you make a new world for yourself, an imagination where you can go and escape the sense of being in a cage. What do you think happens to animals when you put them in a cage in close proximity to each other? Violence. What do you think this world is? It's a cage made of an unconscious nature, inhabited by human beings who see the projections of that unconscious nature as being reality. And then looking at the shadow of reality, then try to get their hands on it and make the shadow into something real. So therefore I am real because I've been able to coalesce my experience into these known conditions that my contentment is predicated on. Please, do you see it? A world of shadows where our struggle is to make real what already is real. But it's already real in another order of being and not in the one that looks to shadows to give it a substance and sense of self. Please? How is it that we see life? We talk about it all the time here. We look out at this world and we see everything moving around us, relationships. And as those relationships seem to revolve around us, they trigger within us a corresponding experience. And that experience is either resisted or embraced. And we call the resistance to or the embrace of the experience of the world that we see around us, we call that our life. Do we not? And all of us is dedicated to dealing with the world. Your thoughts, by the way, are the world. They're not your thoughts. Your thoughts are the world. You have never had an original thought. If you want to know the truth, there's no such thing as an original thought. There is the reconfiguration of thoughts that can produce a new impression. But no thought is new. All thought is the past. It never dawns on us because of our orientation to looking out at the world and seeing what our minds make of that world. Yes, We see and experience what our mind makes of the moment, right? We never think to ourselves that what our mind makes of the moment is a shadow of the real moment. Because the experience is so real, it can't be a shadow. But the experience is, in fact, nothing other than what the mind has put together in shape, form, experience, condition. And then we look out and we see the world through the eyes of a nature that has no understanding whatsoever, that it's experiencing itself everywhere it looks. And the more it experiences itself, the more it wants more of itself, or the less it wants of itself. And as that experience is generated, it says, life is real, I'm real. This is what I have to get rid of, this is what I have to have more of. Please, yes or no? But the truth is, it's not the world moving outside of us. The truth is that what we're experiencing without understanding it is all of the worlds moving within us. That's what we're experiencing, the worlds moving within us, and we are experiencing what those worlds, as they move within us, put together according to their nature. That's our experience. We don't ever recognize that there is, in fact, this indescribable relationship between the various levels of dimension that we live in, even at the simplest level, which we're going to go into quite deeply. And just as it's true of every tree, flower, branch, deer, bee, we live in a world where there is never a moment in which this interior world isn't being stirred. Where something from the most quantum level, invisible, strangely named, undiscovered particle that has to be there is passing through us. Passing through us on its way to where? See, for the most part, we're dead because our experience isn't of the fact that I'm a living entity. I'm something that is being given existence moment to moment. I have no awareness of that because I'm giving myself my existence all the time. So I have no sensitivity to all the things that constantly pass into me, that are moved within me as they pass, let alone what becomes of all that passage. And it seems to us that the passage of things through us is the passage of time. It's not. It is us passing into a new order of time, a new awareness of it, where everything is being given to us in order to experience another dimension of our own life. We look around. Do you know what percentage of life you see? 1 quadrillion billionth, if there's such a number, with your Ford 5902 pickup truck. We see barely a hint of what's possible. And we suffer for it. You may not know it, but you suffer for it. We don't know we're suffering for it because we always give ourselves something to fill that space that cannot be. Imagine a space that cannot be filled no matter what you can imagine to fill it with. And then you'll have some understanding of what it means to live in a world of shadows. Because the nature that believes it can fill itself from the world is in fact a shadow of the world it's looking to make itself real in. Do you understand that idea? So, transition. Where's my clock? Transition. I want to put together 2 ideas for you. Ideas you're familiar with, but that I don't want you to leap ahead into some conclusion. I want you just to pay attention. We've all heard the expression, yes or no, my Father's kingdom has many mansions. And it's not just a Western religious idea. I don't care where you go, every religion has a realm in which, a realm within which, a realm within which, an endless, an endless amount of kingdoms within kingdoms within kingdoms. I want to put that idea together and first stop for a second. How many kingdoms do you live in? You almost can't even answer the question. All I know is that whatever my kingdom is, I'm not even sure of it until something threatens it or until I want something from another kingdom to add to mine. So first idea, my Father's kingdom has many mansions. And then this other idea, which you've heard before, for those who have eyes to see and ears to hear. Speaking of the kingdom of heaven. Which means that we can't see the kingdom of heaven. We can't see any of the infinite number of dimensions in which you and I are constantly a participant in. Did you know that we live in the magnosphere of Jupiter? That we are never not being touched by the electromagnetic vibrations and radiations of the planets, not only in our system, but everything that keeps coming into what we call our solar system. And you know where our solar system is? What you see out there is a representation of what you are. So the entire expansive universe that shouldn't keep expanding is expanding because human beings are intended to constantly be growing into an understanding of their universe, and you are the universe that you are in. And the more that understanding grows, lo and behold, the universe grows. So it isn't the universe that's growing at all. It's human consciousness that is intended to constantly be expanding beyond the content of the shadows in which it lives, so that each level of development proves that what I took to be real was really just a shadow of another order of possibility. You've seen some of this, haven't you, in your work? So what this study is about, the eyes to see, and by the way, the eyes to see, Christ was not talking about your physical eyes. The word eyes referred to this idea of those who have the vision born of understanding. That's what eyes were. Those who can see and perceive through a new order of knowing. So where is this new order of knowing that is these eyes to see that allow a human being to begin to enter into the many dimensions of the divine? Long question, but you get it. Yes, please? So I've talked about this briefly. I want to go into it much more deeply now. I want to talk about the difference between, don't get nervous because I'm actually going to give you a little example so you can understand it. The difference between the limited awareness of experience versus the unlimited experience of awareness. The limited awareness of experience versus the unlimited experience of awareness. Now I can see some of you tilting your heads like, what the heck is he talking about? Here's an example of the limited awareness of experience that we will then turn around and show that there is in fact an unlimited experience of awareness. So here's two girlfriends, and they're out together. And the one, we'll call her Sally, she knows that Betty has been fuming and is quite bitter because Alice, at a little birthday party, said something that was ostensibly cruel to, who are my characters? Betty and who? Sally. Yeah. So Sally's been suffering because of what somebody said. I got too much on my mind to hold the names. And she's been complaining about it, but tonight for the first time, they're sitting there and she says, let's call, who upset her? Betty? Yeah. Let's call Betty and see if she wants to join us. What are you, out of your mind? All you've done is complain about her for weeks. She said, I know, but then I was talking and I didn't, with another name, I was talking with Ben, and Ben explained to me that what I thought Sally said, she didn't really say that at all. It was based on a misperception of something Sally thought that I said. And so she was in pain, and I took her pain to be the proof that she was the way I imagined herself to be, because I brought everything. I brought into the awareness of that moment the full experience of my past with her. So all I was aware of was that experience that colored everything about her. And now I understand why she said what she did. And in my new understanding, there is an experience born of a new awareness of the truth of the moment. Do you see the difference? Limited awareness of an experience. Our mind instantly makes experience. It lives for the experience it makes, because it's made by a self that's already passed, a set of associated thoughts and feelings, personality. Personality lives to recreate itself. So everything that it has this awareness of, it's not awareness of what's going on. It's awareness of the experience it's giving itself as it brings everything in that quantum field into a single reaction and a single set of associated thoughts. Please tell me you're following me. So what happened to, who did it happen to? Sally. So what happened to Sally? Suddenly, that's the title of the book, What Happened to Sally? Suddenly what happens? Sally has an experience that only awareness could produce. And what was the awareness? That there was a much bigger story there. And in the moment that the whole thing is revealed, what takes place? Suddenly, she's in a new dimension where there's compassion. She's in a new dimension where there's the understanding of how she misacted. And so her entire experience, not just of the relationship she had with Betty, yes, I had to pick a name, I got lucky. Not only is the whole experience changed with Betty, but she's different. Because for a split second she realizes, to use an old phrase, a terrible phrase actually now that I think about it, there's more than one way to skin a cat. They were talking about hunting cougars back in the day, not where's Katie and Eric? yeah. Suddenly, I was blind, and now I see. Please, and what I saw before was a shadow of what was real. And now I don't see the shadow anymore. I see that I was in a shadow that couldn't see. Please? She's changed. But when we say she's changed, what's changed is her awareness and relationship to a dimension of understanding that was there all along, but that she couldn't see because she was living in the limited dimension of what we're calling the awareness of an experience. The moment in which your mind says, look at that. That's what happened. I know what to do. That's the experience of the awareness of an unconscious nature that has no awareness of anything, let alone of itself. Yes? Are we communicating? Trying to go slow. Debbie, yes? She's on the class curve thing, And Barbie, she's sitting so far in the back, I can't see her. How you doing? Okay. Transition. We were talking about shadows. From Corinthians. Again, you can find this. I just don't have time to do all the research. And I don't do it for my edification. I do it so that you don't have to draw some strange conclusion based on your conditioning. From Corinthians. For now we see in a mirror darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I have been fully known. He's referring to what happens when we begin to see that everything we see is through a glass darkly, so that all we see constantly are the shadows of this life. But when I finally come to see, meaning I enter into this into the divine dimension, kingdom of heaven, the life of Christ. Call it what you will. In the moment where suddenly my eyes are opened, I no longer see through a glass darkly, but I see fully, because I am fully known by the revelation of myself as being inseparable from the dimension in which to my awareness has come, and that gives me the experience of myself. Sorry for that long word, but did you follow me? Are you getting an impression? The whole point of this impression is that what we think we see, understand. How do I say? We understand the moment presently, the meaning of the moment, through the experience that this nature in its unconscious awareness spells out for us by grabbing hold of everything familiar to it so that then it knows what happened. But it's not present to what is actually unfolding. It is in a terribly limited dimension of our possibility in which it sees through a glass darkly. Yes? And then when it sees through a glass darkly, it's always afraid because it can't see, and so it starts to talk to itself about what it sees, and then it explains to itself what it sees through its own conditioning. Please? So our relationship is what in these moments? Let's go back and make yourself Betty for a split second. Whether it's with somebody, how many of you carry grudges? Constantly looking out, waiting for the other shoe to drop. You know the drill. Going ahead in time, trying to figure out how to make yourself feel better now because your mind has imagined all this potential problem in the future. I don't want problems in the future. Let me punish myself right now, trying to sort it out by that'd be a pretty good act, wouldn't it? Who could prove you weren't doing it? Juggling shadows. I've got 82 shadows going. You just can't see it. That is exactly what a human being is doing. Keeps you very busy. And God forbid one of the shadows should fall. So our relationship in these moments is limited to what? What is my relationship in any given moment limited to? I've been talking about it, please. The experience of what my mind is saying I need to be aware of. And we can see, if I put it together at all properly, that what my mind is saying it's aware of is actually a moving shadow. Not the real deal. It's a shadow replete with all of the conditioned sensations that give that shadow its substance. Still everybody okay? All right, transition number 2. A little bit of physics for just a split second, but not too deep. Okay, Deb? What is a shadow in real life? Look outside. We're blessed here in Michigan. In Southern Oregon, it's a gorgeous day. Look outside. How many of you see shadows? What is a shadow? A shadow is a 2-dimensional projection of the outline of a 3-dimensional object. Because it's flat. You look at the shadow has no dimensions to it at all. So a shadow is a projection of a 3-dimensional object. Actually, 2 dimensions. It has length and 2 dimension, has no depth. Okay? 2-dimensional of a 3-dimensional object. Now, when you look at that shadow, you can pretty much, for the most part, look at, for instance, the shadow of a tree, and you don't have to think to yourself, what is that a shadow of? Why? Because your mind more or less fills in the blanks to tell you what that shadow is. But quite a bit of information is lost, isn't it? When you look at the shadow, you don't see color. No shadow has color. And the shadow only moves according to the 3-dimensional object that's casting it. So we can see a shadow move, can't we? And we can attribute all kinds of qualities to that shadow based on our memory. But the shadow itself has no quality. It's just the absence, actually, of all qualities. That's what a shadow is. So here's all of these moving shadows out there, and you can get a sense of yourself from it. But now, and I have to throw this in for some of you. Maybe you can put your mind on hold, not that it's already not there now. I'm describing to you the real nature of the allegory of the caves. He was saying that at that level, at that dimension of awareness, human beings see only the shadow of real life. They see a two-dimensional representation, even at that level, of a three-dimensional life. The people trapped in the cave with the fire behind them saw the shadows on the wall moving, and because of the content of their knowledge, they could attribute qualities to the shadows. But the shadows only had the quality of the mind that was projecting those qualities onto the shadows. Do you see it? So did the shadows have qualities of their own? But they did to the human beings looking at them because they were looking at themselves dressed in those shadows. Please, is this too much? So, I'm trying to get you to make a leap. I'm sitting at home, I get a phone call, I get a text message. I turn on the news, and suddenly I'm flooded with this experience of people and problems and places, political parties, religious affiliations, demands made on my life. Oh my God. And all you're flooded with is the shadows of an unconscious nature that has attributed that quality or characteristic to what it is looking at, and the experience of your awareness of that moment isn't your awareness at all. It is the content, quality, shape, and form and movement of a mind that is dedicated to making sure it's in control of all shadows, and those it can't be in control of, it hates and runs from. So what are we talking about here? Can you see in scale? I look out, I see the shadow of a tree. I don't even know I see the shadow of a tree. I look out and I see my world. I think I'm looking at a real world. I'm looking at the shadow of an unconscious nature who makes from its content the experience, and I believe the experience of a shadow maker is reality. I believe the experience of a shadow maker is reality, because I lend everything to that shadow, what it needs to have substance and meaning to me. Please? So we're looking at the difference between 2 dimensions versus 3 dimensions. The tiger living in the cage is living a 2-dimensional life relative to the possibilities of having 3 dimensions to wander in. Please? Same with the soul. So much is there that we don't see. And can you see, and again, I am reaching, I'm trying to bring you in. Can you see that the more I become aware of as real, the more real, in one respect, the more reality of my true nature I'm able to experience. So I stop experiencing in that moment, please, what I'm aware of, and I begin to have the awareness of an unlimited experience. How many of you have ever been out someplace, and by the grace of God, I hope, there you were, and you were locked into just dwelling on some shadow. What's going to happen? Why did they say that? What does this mean? And then however it happened, and you've spoken of it, some of you, suddenly you're able to see you were a captive of a mind dwelling on an experience that it had made for itself, and you were in a world that you couldn't see at all. Yes or no? All right, I'm going to give you another example here. Are you ready for our experiment, Kate? So imagine a father and a son. They go outside, and the kid's all wrapped up, stuck in all of these things that are happening to him. He can't help it. A child doesn't know better. But there he is. All he can see is the problem. Let's bring up the image, the first image. I hope you can see it on the screen in the room. I know you can on your computer. You're looking at a sky that is studded with stars. A night sky, Mediterranean blue, black, studded with stars. We walk out, if we see anything at all, and all we see are these pinpoints that our mind starts to talk to us about, and it says, oh, what a beautiful night sky. Now, there is a certain beauty to that, isn't there? But what is it that you can't see when your mind stops everything and you become aware only of the experience your mind is telling you? The sensation of seeing, not the actual experience of it. Please, the sensation of seeing, not the actual experience of it. And his dad says to him, you know what, son? I want you to take a look at this. He said, and then I'm going to do something. We're going to go inside for 20 or 30 minutes. Then we're going to come back, and I want you to see something that's right in front of your eyes, but that you can't see yet. What are you talking about? They go inside. When they come back, the father has taken a time-elapsed picture of the same sky. Please. And this is what the son begins to see. Wheels within wheels within wheels, a constant turning. And to see something constantly turning is quite different than looking at something that has no motion to it at all, because you add the fact that it's constantly turning and you brought in another order of your own consciousness that experiences the next dimension of what's possible and always right in front of your eyes, but that you can't see. You don't see how life is turning, because you are stuck at a bend in the river that you have decided is a problem, so that all you're aware of is at that moment what you need to do to get away from something that if you were in the dimension where everything is constantly being turned and you are being turned with it, you would start to realize it's all settled. It's done. I don't have to do anything. In another dimension, it is done. In another dimension, what do you think Christ was talking about? In the kingdom of heaven, it is done. We have no awareness whatsoever of the fact that it is done because we're too busy trying to do in order to bring about what we say has to happen so we can be safe. Please, do you understand it? So our awareness of life is a constant struggle, an endless juggling of these shadows of thoughts. That's all. A thought is a shadow. Can you not see it? I'm trying to show you the difference between reality and shadows. Is not a thought a shadow of an idea? Isn't an idea a shadow of the potential? So everything is shadow. Shadowlands, C.S. Lewis. He was talking about love. The shadow of it, not the thing itself, because we're never in the real world where these dimensions coexist and interlap. And in their intersection, the understanding that as a human being, this is my real world, like the animal trapped in that compound. I'm not meant to wander around in a world of shadows trying to find the self that I am. I find the self that I am that already exists in the kingdom, and I'm already in my Father's kingdom, all of them according to my capacity to be attentive and aware of them. Are you following me? We see what's already there. The boy, when he looked up, he didn't see the stars. What did he see? He saw what he was thinking about. Right on time, because we're going to do something collectively now. It's a meditation of a sort, a living meditation, and I'm going to actually walk you through, God willing, depending upon your willingness to work, I'm going to show you right while you're sitting here these dimensions that I'm talking about. Please, Father. You ready? Do or don't, I don't care. Put one hand over your eye. Look around as best you can. Now, by and large, you don't see anything unusual. You still see me. You still see the room outside. You see the world you're in. Yes? Now, hold on. Take an impression of what you see. And now, take your hand down. Ooh, that's like a totally different impression, isn't it? Let's do it again. I put my hand up here, and what is it that I see? I see only 2 dimensions. It's flat. You take your hand down and suddenly, wow, this is the awareness of an entirely different experience. Do it again. One experience, because of the level of awareness. Take your hand down. Suddenly I'm in 3 dimensions. Now I've always been in 3 dimensions, but I have no awareness of it. You have no, honest to God, you're never even in 3 dimensions. What do you think you love nature for when you go outside? Because it is a kind of effortless way where the observer and the observed enter into the depth, breadth, and height, all that of the world you're in. Suddenly, 3 dimensions. I love the experience of 3 dimensions. But I'm never in 3 dimensions. Let's go back to Betty. How many dimensions was she in when she was thinking about Sally? Whoever it was. How many dimensions was she in? 2. Me and what I'm apart from. Me and what was done to me. Suddenly, she gets new information, her awareness is expanded, and she realizes she's part of this broader relationship, and her new awareness lets her enter into a dimension where without trying, compassion is there. So compassion wasn't something created, it waits in another order of being, another dimension of the divine. This is why nobody has real compassion. We have to invent it, make shadows of it, and then protect it and paint it so that it seems real to us. So we're not done. Let's go back. How many of you can actually feel the difference between 2 dimensions and 3? Phenomenal, isn't it? But that's not the end. Now watch me, and then you're going to do it. Here I am, basically flat land, 2 dimensions, 3 dimensions. Oh, that's a new experience of myself, and now I'm going to have the experience of that awareness. This is what self-remembering is. Now I'm going to go 1, 2, and then I'm going to bring myself into the awareness of that 3 dimensions. And when you bring yourself into the awareness of 3 dimensions, lo and behold, 4 dimensions. Because if you do this properly, I don't want to put this in your mind. I want you to experience it. Let's do it. 1, 2, 3 dimensions. Now, be aware of yourself in 3 dimensions. The moment you become aware of yourself in 3 dimensions, you're in the 4th dimension, something timeless. And if you've had moments, and you all have had, of a sudden, like the little boy couldn't see what he couldn't see, suddenly I'm aware of the beauty. I'm driving up my driveway and I'm in thought about what I'm going to do, where I'm going to go, and there's the magic moment, and I'm transported, aren't I? Into what am I transported? I'm transported into a new order of awareness that in itself, in that dimension, holds within it the end of all my deliberations over my problems, and now I'm delivered into a world where I don't have a problem because I'm complete there. Because I'm only complete, not in the compound of conflicted thoughts and feelings trying to save themselves, but I'm complete when I enter into a world that is already complete within me, and I am intended to be completely within it. Can you see what I'm talking about? Practically, that's all I want. I said 1 impression. Do you know what happens? This, by the way, is going to be a form of the exercise for you. I want you, when you're by yourself, to sit wherever you are, close one eye, cover it, I don't care how you do it. Look around, get the experience of that level of awareness. Drink in the sudden awareness of 3 dimensions. Do you know what the awareness of 3 dimensions is? It's the awareness of all of your centers at the same time. Suddenly, it's not just my mind I was locked into two dimensions. It's not just the sensation I was identified, and it certainly wasn't just the feeling. Suddenly, all of that is present. All three aspects of myself are present in the third dimension. But there's an aspect that's still missing, which is why we bring into the awareness of that, the experience, the awareness of myself, not just the awareness of three dimensions, but the experience of that awareness. The experience of the awareness of three dimensions is four-dimensional. Now you are touching something that is timeless. And listen, that was there before you did it. Do you understand that? It was there prior to you consciously beginning to explore that dimension. It was always there, but you're never there because you're always in flatland dealing with shadows. So that means at any point that a person is willing to even experiment, they say, listen, I'm stressed and my mind, some of you, I'm going to do an insight timer on how to get a good night's sleep. Some of you, you can't sleep. You know why you can't sleep? You've got so many shadows and you're juggling them and trying to figure out how to set everything down so you can get back to rest. And the more you try to sort through what you have to do, the more shadows you're juggling. What happens if I just, for the first time, actually realize I am an inhabitant of not just my Father's many mansions, but my Father's many mansions inhabit me. And I can enter into that awareness at any point in time that I'm willing to let go of what? To sell my two-dimensional life. To start recognizing there's more to that. But you know why people don't want the true four-dimensional life? You say you do, but the proof of your life is that you don't. You know why you don't? Because there's no me. In a four-dimensional world, even in a three-dimensional world, there is just the experience of an order of myself that I usually have no contact with at all. And suddenly, there it is. But I'm drawn back into the world of shadows. I'm tempted by shadows. Because the shadow is substance to me, because the self that makes shadow substance finds itself being substantiated through what it worships, what it thinks about. Do it one more time. Close one eye. I'm hoping you're doing this at home. Look around. Well, I'm looking up at the clock on the wall. You have the fortune of looking behind me. Beautiful nature. Don't take your eye down. Stay there for a while. Let it be evident to you that the sense of yourself inherent in that. And then open your eyes. It's like the world suddenly unfolds. Is the world unfolding? What's unfolding? What's unfolding? My consciousness has entered into a new relationship with the world around it, because within it has found a new order of awareness, another dimension of itself, another dimension of myself. You keep trying to create dimensions of yourself, and that's why you're demented. I said it funny. You don't think you're demented? What kind of human being spends hours suffering over a world of experience that their awareness said was real, and that then in the reality of that sense of self, I've got to do something to escape it. And the more you try to escape the shadow, the more encompassed you are by it, by a level of consciousness, Plato's world. Practice, I call it 1, 2, 3, the timeless way to see. 1, 2, 3, a timeless way to see. I spend time with some of you. I walk with you. I sit in your office. Discuss business, the foundation. Always in two dimensions. And by the way, the more two-dimensional a human being is, the more impatient, angry, frustrated, and defensive they are. Because all they have is the shadow of themselves that is threatened or otherwise brought into some unwanted condition, has to protect itself. Shadows have to protect themselves to prove that they're real. Shadows have to protect themselves to prove that they're real. Thoughts, which are shadows, have to protect themselves to prove they're real. Thoughts, which are shadows of the consciousness that creates them, have to protect themselves, as does that consciousness. One, two, three, a timeless way to see. And then, to bring this talk to a close, here I am. I'm doing this at home. I do this. There's no way. You see, you have to learn to love the taste of what is timeless. You love the taste of what you imagine is timeless. The taste of what is timeless only exists in the awareness of what is timeless. And you're invited to enter into it at any point when you start to recognize, you know what? What if I brought myself into real remembrance of myself right now? Because that's what it is. Self-remembering is when the observer and the observed are present and there's the awareness of that experience. That's what self-remembering is. That's the practicing the presence. I say I want to practice. You can practice it. And here's the beautiful thing. The more you work at practicing this new kind of relationship to these interpenetrating dimensions, and they are interpenetrating. That's what's so fascinating about it, is that I can be aware of this anger and at the same time be present to the awareness of that experience and realize the experience is a product of something that knows what's going on, and then bring that into the experience of my awareness. Suddenly the whole thing is enlarged. Everything is brought into a much broader picture where, like the boy saw the stars in wheels within wheels, you start to see the whole moment is like that. And I'm invited to be a participant in the movement, not someone who makes everything static so I can have a definitive sense of self drawn from it. When you do this exercise, when you do this meditation, you could do it in a restaurant, you could do it anywhere. Don't do it while you're driving. No, I'm not kidding. I have to do certain things myself to discover that that's stupid. But wherever you are, nobody will know. Oh, and you'll feel yourself relax. You'll actually feel yourself relax. Why is there relaxation in entering into the kingdom of heaven? That level of it. It's just a level. Everything is in levels. You have to understand, I've described potentially your experience of 4 dimensions. The fifth dimension, which we're not going to get into, belongs to something that is no longer trying to participate in anything. It's all possibilities. But for now, just the possibility of being in a world where everything's done. Not I've got to do it. Everybody in Shadowland was always trying to figure out how to get the other shadows to line up with their shadow. You can't do it. You want people to line up with your idea of morality, your idea of love, your idea of kindness and compassion. Every last part of that's trash. And the proof that it's trash, it always ends up in a garbage heap filled with human beings protecting it and worshiping it. No. So when you do it, 1, 2 dimensions, 3 dimensions, the awareness of those 3 dimensions, I got nowhere to go. I got nothing to do. That world is available all the time. But it's not a kingdom of my making, is it? It's a kingdom that I have been made, like the lion, the tiger, the porpoise, and the dolphin, that I have been made to live in. And until I live in this altered, higher dimension, I am exactly like a caged animal that doesn't know that the responsibility for feeling caged isn't because the world has done something to you. It's because this consciousness prefers the sense of captivity, because then it can get busy saving itself. You've already been saved. You just don't know it. You can enter into a new understanding of that, a new awareness of that, a new relationship with what is truly divine and dimensional endlessly. And in that discover not just your true self, but what you've been looking for all along in all the wrong places. Let's take a break. We'll come back and have our dialogue.
All right, welcome back to part 2 of our class. We're going to get started with our Q&A, open dialogue discussion time here in just a moment. I asked Doug if I could sneak up here and give a quick announcement. I think everyone here knows, but there might be some new people out there watching, that Life of Learning Foundation is a center for self-discovery. We are a nonprofit here located in Southern Oregon, not Michigan. We are in Southern Oregon. And this place is open year-round. There are people who come here regularly for classes on Sundays and Wednesdays, and we also have student study groups. Guy gives talks on insighttimer.com. Once a month we have a work party here at the foundation where we have a nice time where we clean up around the place, and then we have a nice lunch and a discussion with Guy afterwards. And so it's just an ongoing place where we are exploring these ideas together. And you're welcome to come and join us literally online or in person anytime, and just plug in anywhere, anytime you wish. Each class, as you've noticed, each talk is complete in and of itself, but we also, there's sort of these themes that get carried over because we're here, exploring all of this again and again each week. And often what Guy is talking about today, is a continuation of what he talked about last week and what he'll continue to talk about this coming week. And I just kind of want to give you a sense of that in case you didn't know that about the foundation. And so this coming week actually is going to be kind of a special one because we have a Sunday of Wisdom next Sunday. So a week from today on the 29th is a Sunday of Wisdom. We do this where Guy he chooses a theme that he wishes to go into more deeply. And we sort of advertise it out there as a special time for you to come and watch online as well. But we're combining it a little bit with our work party weekend. So next week, I want to tell you what's coming up. We've got our Deep Dive Wednesday, which is another special class where Guy goes more deeply into questions that you in the room, you and our audience online have submitted to him, writings that you would like explored more deeply, and he goes into that. So that's Deep Dive Wednesday. We have, of course, our Friday study group of students, and then on Saturday we have Guy's Insight Timer talk. I don't know if he is planning to give that talk that he mentioned that he was going to be talking about. Oh, what was it? What did he say he was going to talk in his Insight Timer? Oh well, anyway, doesn't matter. It was going to be special. It always is. So Insight Timer talk, then our work party. We'll have a Facebook and YouTube live stream discussion afterwards, and then our Sunday of Wisdom. So do tune in wherever you can this coming week. And we also are putting together a great replay package. We thought it would be a good opportunity to kind of take all 4 of these talks next week and put them into a nice package. So if you make a donation of $10 or more, we're going to give you the 4 talks from Deep Dive Wednesday, Insight Timer Saturday, Saturday lunch discussion, and the Sunday of Wisdom. It's a great way for you to support the foundation for one thing, but then also get something in return. It'll be like a little mini e-course, and he'll just be continuing on with this topic I know that he's been speaking of lately. And in fact, the official talk title for next Sunday is How to Free Yourself from Anxious Thoughts and Feelings with One Supreme Action. Sounds intriguing, doesn't it? So I hope
One supreme action is born out of an unseen but constant relationship that you don't understand with life. And as you understand the relationship, you are delivered into an effortless understanding of what that action is, and that feeds into each other. I'm very much looking forward, in particular, to Sunday's talk, because I have something that most of us have never thought of, and that once it enters into our mind, it changes the dimension of our understanding.
Do tune in if you can. Get the replay package. You can go to guyfinley.org/package if you want to do that. Again, we're a nonprofit, and all donations and anything you purchase in our store, if you're a member of our Wisdom School, all of that just goes right back into this work that we're doing to take this information that is so needed out in the world and put it out there as far and wide as we can. So thank you for your support. I'm almost done here. I'll just say that if you are a Wisdom School member, by the way, that replay package, actually if you're a premium or all access Wisdom School member, that replay package will be available to you as part of your membership, and watch for an email from me actually this coming week that will tell you how to get that. Any questions? Reach out to us on our website, and I'll hand it over to Doug.
words or anything? Okay. All right, we're ready to get started with our questions and answers. If you're on GoToWebinar, many of you know you can just click on that little hand icon. I see, Joni, your hand came up and then went right back down, so you must have double-clicked something. So anyway, try it again, Joni. There you are. And then we have one written question. You can always write in any written question, and we'll read it here as well. So let's go ahead and get started with Joan.
Hello, Guy. Hi, everyone.
Who is this?
This is hello from Buffalo.
Yes, you are.
Guy, I just loved your talk today. I loved, it was a great metaphor, perfect for us inwardly when you were talking about holding your hand over one eye. And being as I'm blind in one eye, I can see I have no depth, I don't see a complete picture. And so what you were talking about, I only see two dimensions, and what you were talking about was perfect for our inner work. And when the image came up of the stars and then it was twisted, it reminded me of a mandala.
Yes.
Mandela, where the center, the dot in the center was the beginning or the center of all things. And I just thought there's so much to this talk. I can't even begin to say everything, but I really liked it, and I could see from my own experience what you were talking about. So thank you very much for that.
You're welcome, Joni. I'm glad that you were able to get a strong impression. That was the intention. Just, is there really another world within me that when I live in it, I live in a completely different world around me? The answer is yes. Okay, Doug.
Yes, thank you.
Patricia's coming up to the mic.
Hi, my name is Patricia. Wednesday night, I was in such a state. We all get in states, and I don't know where this came from. It just came over me. But I had a different experience with it. We've all been in states all our life. We're pretty familiar with them. You're kind of blind by the state. And then as you work, you start actually seeing the state, and then you should be acting. What am I trying to say? Well, anyway, there was a state, and then I was watching myself. Something was watching. The awareness was watching myself, talking to people, acting a certain way and everything. And it was such a big division between the two. It felt like two people there the whole night. It was the strangest, and I felt that separation before, but not like this. It was, the tone of my voice, everything about me was a different person than this state. And it went on all night. And it was interesting because, you talk about schizophrenic. Worked 30 years to find out I'm schizophrenic, So anyway, the state didn't even wear off till the next day. That's how strong it was. But if there's not worlds upon worlds, that was what this talk reminded me of. It is inwardly. Well, actually, it's all taking place inwardly. So anyhow, it's an interesting study.
She's not done.
I was not done. First of all, I have to get up when Joan's there because she tells me if she likes my outfit. But that's not what I wanted to say. What I wanted to say is when Kate was talking, giving the announcement. When Kate was doing the announcements and you get that package, just because you heard this talk, every time you hear it, you can play it 10 times and hear something new. So you can play that series of talks over and over and over again.
Hi, my name is Chris. So this talk today was so perfect, and what I love about this work is like you can be struggling with something and then you come to class and the ideas that are given are so helpful. Like, you know, you just sit through the talk and you say, yes, that's right. I've been struggling for a couple weeks being upset with a decision that my sister made that I thought was very wrong and unacceptable according to Chris's ideas of how things should unfold. Disregarding the fact that, number one, it's none of my business, and number two, how much time I spent talking to her in my mind, you know, thinking I'm going to write her a letter, or if I do this, then this is going to happen, you know, weighing and measuring, all caught in a state, really. And
a shadow talking to a shadow.
A shadow talking to a shadow. Anyways, last night I spoke to my other sister, and I purposely didn't bring up my shadow. But it kind of came up in the conversation, but I didn't want to, you know, I didn't want to make a thing out of it. And my sister that I spoke to last night helped me to see that there were reasons behind my other sister's decision that I was unaware of. And so that there's the other dimension. You know, and what was interesting was last night after dinner I took a walk and I was just walking and thinking about all of that, and I remembered Guy's talk from a couple weeks ago, it's not your turn. It's not your turn. It wasn't my place. I needed to wait to be given what was, not to force my opinion on somebody else. I was so happy that I never did anything with all that pain to put more pain onto somebody else. And like you said, it's just like thought is two-dimensional. It is flat. It is just a shadow. It can't see the whole thing. But if we just stay out of everything, then realizations are given to us in their time. I had to go through all of that to actually see the meaninglessness of my actions, of what I think. Of this nature, like John said, it doesn't know anything.
Pain is a train with no end, which is why you have to jump tracks.
Hello, my name is Ellen. And it struck me that in the picture of the moving sky, I guess it was the point where the camera was centered, that everything was centered around that one point. But everything is unlimited. If the camera had been, and this is the miracle, and Guy has talked about it before, if the camera had been 10 feet over, it would have been completely symmetrical around that point.
The center is everywhere.
The center is everywhere. And I don't know, I feel that there's so much in there, and I'm trying to grasp at little bits of it. But like each one of us is looking from a different place, and everything is that center. So that's why there can be more empathy when we're in the third and the fourth dimension, because we can understand that we all have a different center. And I don't know if this is true, but if I'm in a state, everything is going one way, but with new awareness and a different state, I'm actually I'm in a different universe.
Yes.
Because this awareness is in a different center. I don't know, like I said, there's a lot in there, and I don't have it all, but I think that there's some amazing, great truth in all of that.
Practice the exercise. The understanding is there. You just have to enter into it. That's your job.
We have several written questions, and John is going to come up shortly, but I want to do another John asks a question. He says, does this mean there's nothing to, does this mean there's nowhere to go, nothing to do, only something to see?
I mean, John, the simple answer is yes, but our temptation is to make a bed out of thoughts and then lie in it and go to sleep. First there's a mountain, then there is no mountain, then there is. In her own way, Patricia, when she was up here, was alluding to the fact, first, there's just this mountain of misery, this mean person, this problem I don't know what to do with. I'm completely captured by it. I'm in a world of shadows, struggling with them. I don't know that I'm in that world. I'm just suffering from this sense of being incomplete and the stress of trying to make myself whole. And then by the grace of her work, by the grace of God, suddenly there's a little separation. So what seemed at first to be the only world, then she has this glimpse that it's not the only world. There's another order of myself. The wheat as opposed to the chaff. The understanding as opposed to the conflict. And suddenly she can see and realize that this is going on at the same time. The awareness is there, but so is the pain behind this. I'm aware of the pain, and yet I'm not participating in it to the extent I'm aware of it. So I'm in another dimension where the two overlap in a manner of speaking. And then there's a progression from the overlapping into the entrance into one that overlaps the one above it. And it's unending in terms of a person's potential to discover these interior levels of consciousness that aren't conflicted. That's your work. So first there was a mountain for her. Then she began to see, really, the mountain was of my own making. So now there is no mountain, and yet it doesn't mean that the mountain maker has gone away. It's just that it's in a different relationship to my mind, where instead of dominating it, I see it as a shadow. It doesn't just go away. That's silly. You're a living human being. I am a living being. My being is not different than your being. It's just dressed differently and has less hair. I'm just making the distinction so that you can understand that who and what you are lives potentially, intentionally, if it were, in a world that isn't limited anymore by the shadow of a prison. Prove it, bringing the other talk in, is for you to see that the prison, the shadow of it, isn't real. Only one way to find out. You have to walk out. But you can't walk out in imagination. You have to walk out into a new understanding that reveals that to you.
Hi, I'm John. Today's key lesson mentioned the fact that we are drawn to explore an unknowable mystery. And I know Guy has said in the past that there is no real life without mystery. And science is always answering questions that just bring up 100 more questions with every answer.
Yes.
You know, that just opens up another 100 dimensions. So, I mean, suppose, like physicists, for example, are always trying to come up with this grand unification theory, the theory of everything. I'm going to reconcile Newtonian physics with quantum physics, and then we're going to have the bedrock of everything physical. But just pretend if that actually happened, and now we've got the answer, and there's no more mystery. What would that be like? It'd be like my life right now, So thank God that it's a mystery that's unknowable forever and ever, and yet it is done, and yet every point is the center. So that's kind of cool too.
Did not our heroine, Betty? Sally. Did not our heroine, didn't she discover that there was another dimension? Mm-hmm. And in the discovery of that dimension, where was that dimension she discovered? Within herself. And it is endless within yourself. But what you're discovering is yourself that is already endless. It's just a journey, an unknowable journey to an unnameable destination.
All right, just to encouragement, if you're on GoToWebinar, raise your hand by clicking little hand icon. We have time. Let's go to Frida. Frida says, hello, Guy. I have a bit of a weird question, but lately I was always asking questions inside myself, and when a good feeling came up, I did it. But in time, I thought, what am I doing? Am I sure this is right, what I am doing? I want to be sure. So now I don't do that anymore, but immediately a thought came up that now I don't know what to do anymore. I am still researching this. Maybe you can tell me something about this. What am I actually doing? Ha ha.
I'll summarize that for Frida and for everybody here. Do you know when you get close to, call it what you will, liberation, moksha, enlightenment, one of the sure signs that you're approaching, that you have a foot inside of that particular kingdom, is when not only do you not want to talk to yourself, you're bored to death with doing so. You just love talking to yourself. You do. And because there's no relief in it and only increased stress, then you have to go find somebody to bend their ear with your suffering, hoping somehow or other that they're going to explain to you what you're creating in the ignorance of that relationship you have, where the mind closes off possibilities by naming the experience, hiding from itself the awareness of that through what it says has happened, and then trying to sort through the very thing that it settled in itself that left it unsettled with its own conclusion. Anyway, Frida, that's the answer. It's not weird. You're just starting to realize, here's Frida. First stuff would happen, I kind of like it, and I talk to myself, this is great, isn't this wonderful? I want more of this. Yeah, Barb? Yeah. This is great. And then I start to think to myself, what am I doing? Who the heck am I talking to? But then I start thinking to myself, well, I need to stop talking to myself, but now I'm alone. And now something doesn't know who to talk to. Bless the day when you no longer want to find a way to talk to yourself about anything at all.
Here's another question. This comes from Kelly. She says, hello.
Hi, Kelly.
I have a large pasture I mow about once a month. It takes a while to mow, so it can be quite mesmerizing. I try and use this time to be present. Twice this year while mowing, I felt like I had 3D glasses on, like at the movies.
Yes.
Everything popped. It didn't last long. I chalked it up to imagination, but with your talk today, I'm wondering if I could have possibly entered another dimension. Curious In Michigan.
Michigan.
Okay.
You know why I love that question and her experience? Because as a result of her questioning, wanting to understand, trying to use the experience, she actually had a moment where, I intend to go into this more deeply. Instead of my mind going, God, when is this going to be over? Instead of my body going, I hope this is making a six-pack set of abs for me, and she drives on the tractor. Instead of, and this will just throw this out, what you call feeling isn't feeling at all. What you experience is what we're going to, you know the word emotion? I want you to put a dash, emotion. It is the movement of energies that you sense in your body and you call that emotion. It is sensation conditioned, good or bad or in between. So instead of the usual emotion, I'm sitting here and I'm trying to feel. So my heart is present, my mind is present, and my body is present. And lo and behold, when they are unified, the field of energy is unified. And when the field of energy is unified, lo and behold, I'm suddenly living in another dimension that was there, but I wasn't because I was fragmented, divided. So suddenly, Jesus, wow, this is cool. I don't have 3D glasses on. I was talking to somebody yesterday. I don't talk to many people. I was doing an interview. And she was explaining to me, given what we were talking about, that suddenly she said I was outside and all of a sudden it was like I was in a completely different palette of colors, like I'd never seen colors. She said I was on acid, but I wasn't. What she's referring to is that suddenly a completely new field was available for her to be aware of, because the energy that creates fields and allows them to remain or that collapses them into a thought was there long enough to have a completely different perception of the moment. That was already there. You know the beauty that you see randomly? It's never not there. Can you see this is where the hope of human beings live? Not in immediate future, trust me. It's going to take God only knows how long, and I'm not talking about a lifetime. But the hope of human beings lies in the fact of beginning, as St. Paul said, you know, I didn't know I see things through a glass darkly. I didn't know that what I was thinking about my sister or my money or my health or my dying or I didn't know any of that was a glass darkly, because I was looking at a shadow. I didn't know it. And then he said, suddenly, because of the light of Christ, meaning by the fact of this light that illumines this consciousness that's unaware of itself, suddenly in my unawareness of myself, I have awareness of a completely new self that wouldn't exist if it weren't for this living light. Boom, another dimension. And that's what Kelly's saying. So Kelly, this is an invitation. These moments are invitations, because I didn't get this into the talk. I did write a whole story about this, my mind, over 1,000 years. The story about the boy, the young man who walks into the town and there's only one wine shop and one wine they sell in it, and he takes a drink of that wine, and he can't understand why there's only one wine shop, but he never tasted anything like that. He leaves the wine shop, and after that, no matter where he goes, no wine tastes good to him anymore, because he had a taste of the divine. When you have a taste of 3 dimensions, 4 dimensions, or as certain mystical experiences provide, an actual 5th dimension awareness of yourself, in that moment, I'm going to go back to thinking about you? What are you kidding? I'm going to sit with a fire behind me and look at the shadows and try to figure out how to get them to move the way I want them to? Or I'm going to try to make my shadow lose weight? Or I want listen to this for how ludicrous. I want an eternal shadow. Talk about vanity, all is vain in the field of opposites. Can you have a shadow without something that casts it? Anyway, relish that understanding, Kelly. Don't try to recreate it. Do your work. And be able, much as Frida was speaking about, to use the moments of dissatisfaction that are now part of a divine dissatisfaction because you have tasted something different. I was so sure with this talk today, I even told my wife, I said, we're going to get out of here early because nobody's going to talk about this. Nobody's going to understand it. I'm getting the opposite experience here.
Yeah. Just a quick experience
Please.
for me, because that picture of the wheel within the wheel,
Yeah.
there's a spiritual, and spirituals are really one of the only American Negro spirituals come from this country. And there was, Ezekiel saw the wheel way up in the middle of the air, and the wheels and the wheels and the wheels way up in the middle of the air. It's like these people who were struggling, they were given another dimension in the midst of their struggle.
Yes.
When they wrote these incredible spirituals, that had so much emotion in them and so much feeling, they were given another dimension. They didn't create it, but just the way that song, Ezekiel is a prophet from the Old Testament, and I don't know the exact verse of where that spiritual comes from, but that's how that hit me when I saw those wheels and the wheels. It's never ending. And when we know this is what's right, we're dead in the water. So it didn't bore me today, so thank you.
Yeah, good.
Not that it ever does. But
glad.
Susanna asks, when I am angry with myself about my past mistakes, am I in the shadows of the two dimensions? I'm so tired of torturing myself.
Amen, Susanna. Look, I'm speaking for Susanna, but I know you know this about her. She's a longtime student already, not here. We're in Michigan, she's somewhere in Detroit, I don't know. I've suffered my whole life. But I never knew I had the experience of what I was given to be aware of that said I need to suffer. I had the experience of what I was given to be aware of, told me you, this, that, or the other, and because of that, I have to suffer. Now, Susanna is saying, I didn't know all that was going on. All there was that suffering, an interminable struggle. Now suddenly, she has her toe in another dimension where for the first time, she's actually aware of the fact that she isn't being tortured by life, but that she's living from a consciousness that tortures itself over the life it's imagined she should have had. Please, yes? Now, this is a threshold. Your spiritual work is about constantly coming to a threshold where you start to perceive what you could not see before because you have been given by a light awakening within you a perception of what was a shadow that you thought was the real thing. Now I have to decide, because back to one of the original Frida, I don't know what to talk to myself about anymore. Because I realize talking to myself is a shadow talking to a shadow, but I'm so lonely without a shadow. I'm so lonely without a world to struggle with, because I don't know who to be if I'm not trying to figure out how to get rid of something or add something to myself. My whole life is predicated on living in the cave that Plato was talking about. So the awareness of that, he even says that when he talks about the allegory. And this man, he awakens, and he turns around and he realizes, Jesus, there's a light that's not just this fire casting the shadows. There's something in the back of the cave. What is that light? Suddenly he sees real light, not the light that was casting the shadows. And what does he do? He turns around, gets out of the shackle, and goes into that light. Now, what happened to St. Paul when Christ, the light of Christ, he was blinded? So does Plato. He's blinded. But he understands now he's got to go back into the world of shadows and help anybody there that's still in shadows to start seeing they live in shadows. And what did they do to Jesus when he tried to do this? They hung him up. What do they do to play? What do they do to anybody that starts saying what's real?
Well, this will go right along with what you're talking about. And this is from the Cinema Nerd on YouTube. You'll want to meet him, Eric. Eric's a cinema guy. In the Cinema Nerd says, even though I know I'm right and would willingly die for my truths, all kinds of authority figures still scare me. I see their evil actions, sensing they would like me to suffer with them, and yet their presence shakes my confidence. I watch that trembling child within me, the one who falters before their power, and I long for him to grow up and stand firm.
You're not alone. I'm going to call you CN instead of Cinema Nerd. You're not alone. Everything's in scale, CN. Everything's in scale. What you have to see, and that will be part of not just this interior required turning, which is a revolution. Do you understand? Revolution means a turning. A turning. The turning occurs in proportion to a person's recognition that what we call these the powers and principalities that have the power to take from me my money, put me in prison, kill me, denigrate me, cancel me. You've been living in that your whole life. You go to a family dinner. What do you think you're looking at? Why do you fawn in front of one brother and argue with a sister? Because everybody has in that consciousness been attributed a power that exists relative to what you want from them or fear about them. So that the thing that you fear has nothing to do with what the mind, the shadow thought that describes it, has everything to do with what that consciousness doesn't know about itself, that it fears in itself, and then fearing itself tries to avoid the conditions that represent the matrix of its own making. I don't know if you can understand that. He says, I know I'm right, which is, I'm not going to go there, and would willingly die for my truths. By the way, CN, when you know you're right, the struggle's over. Not that it won't be challenged so that you can see something new about where you may be identified with what your understanding is. But the awareness of identification is the nullification of thinking of yourself as being right, because no one who's identified with anything is ever right. They're lost. So here I am, and here's this idea of an authority figure. I see their evil actions. How many of you look out in the world and see evil actions? And you can be split right down the middle. Left says, oh, the right is evil. Right says, oh, the left is evil. They're opposites. Unaware of themselves and certainly unaware of what they do to themselves by struggling to make the other one fit the shadow world, their perfect world. The more you try to make your world more perfect, the more punishment you receive from investing yourself in what you have created. God is good. God is good. To understand that means, Cinema Nerd, I have to start recognizing that when I feel this fear, I want to speak. How about something this simple? I'm at dinner. I'll talk about me personally. I'm at dinner with my family. There's nobody in my family that I have a bone to pick with, even though they have thrown a lot of bones at me. I don't have an enemy. I mean, not a single one. Nobody visits me in my thoughts. I got no problems with anybody, even people that have done terrible things to me, and they have. And they start talking about, one family member starts talking about how horrible my mother was to them. Now, was my mother an equal opportunity mother? Are you? She couldn't help herself. If she thought it, she spoke it. How many of you know people like that? I wouldn't let my brothers denigrate my mother. Not because I'm identified with her, but because it's the right thing to do, to stand up for what is true. Now, my other brother may sit there, or my other member of his family may listen to this negative gossip, this terrible, dark conversation, and not say a damn word because they're terrified of making their relationship worse than it already is with another person. So that you live in fear, not of the person or the circumstance, but what it might mean to you if you should stand up and do what's right. So the fear of whatever I say I'm afraid of isn't the fear of that person or that place or that position. It's the fear of what might happen to me if I do that. And when you finally understand some of that, the battle's over. The struggle is right where you are. You're not dealing with anything other than the experience of yourself and what your awareness is telling you has happened that you're asleep to. And now the experience of that awareness, which opens up the dimensions of completely new actions for yourself. Everybody understand that? I hope that CN did too.
Hello, my name is Heidi, and on that same note, I like to watch and see what's going on in the news. And watching two people with completely opposite views, one a woman, one a man, have a discussion reminds me completely of my marriage to a person who is the opposite. This tall, lean cowboy and this short, chunky city girl. And the different perspectives on life are just, they seem unbridgeable. They seem, how could these two minds exist in the same home? So very much like what the last person asked, how is it possible to stand up to what I see out there when I don't know that it lives within me? Well, it's absolutely impossible. My job, from what I understand, is that the crucible is here in my life. So what kind of person am I when I listen to someone I love say something that I completely disagree with? Am I ferocious? Am I deaf? Am I mean? Well, but mechanically, yes. Just absolute negation of the other person's view. So then, you can only do that so many times until there's just born inside of you this need for change. And you know the change can't be the other person changing first. It is me who must suffer my opinion, feeling like my way is right, really dying to that, so that something new can be born within the two of us, so that it's not just resistance meeting resistance and viewpoints hitting one another. Just, there's so much room. Like this beautiful video that he showed, there's so much room in the universe for each of us to have this cosmos moving around us, and yet something within us gets fixated and wants to start a fire over the smallest thing. So I love that the inner work of one person can affect everything outside of them, but that's not the goal. My goal is not to change politics. My goal is not to change them. My wish is just to die to the parts of me that need to be died to.
Opinions are prisons. They're not meant to be. But every last one of them is. And when, CN, Heidi, you see that you are imprisoned by an opinion, and that the pain of wanting to change anything that stands against your opinion doesn't exist without what you're identified with, then you begin the beautiful process of dying to your identity as it is derived from, and this is critical, I hope to show it to you in the next month or so. You don't have an opinion. You are an incarnation of an endless series of ridiculous opinions produced by setting yourself against some other opinion and then using the pain of that to prove yourself a shadow is real. How ludicrous. You're chock full of the content of your environment, your religion, your politic, everything about your life that you say is made, that you make choices from. You have never made a choice the way you imagine it. Not one. Not one. And I can show it to you. And by the way, if I do, now what's going to happen? To go back to Frida. Well, now what am I going to think about? I've got to make choices. Yes, you do. First there's a mountain, then there's no mountain, then there is. But at least let it be a choice made from the awareness of oneself instead of a choice trying to change what you're aware of. We done? Anybody want to come up? Otherwise, we're going to hit the high road. And you can do what you want. Bye.
Thank you.